The Confederate soldiers spent much of the rest of that morning and afternoon gathering wounded and dying men. The dead were also collected, and burial parties of captured Union troops set about the task of interring the casualties of both sides. Surgeons worked on the wounded in a medical tent set up for the purpose. It was late afternoon before the wagons carrying the wounded could be loaded. It had been decided that they would follow the column north rather than head south. Generals Archer and Davis had decided to break out the northern entrance to the valley. They would then move north and east in the hope of discovering the army of General Lee, which they knew to be somewhere to the east of their current location. Here is a map of the next table. I didn't really need to create this table, but I did anyway, just for continuity. The head of the Confederate column passes through the farming community of Garton. It was decided that they would make camp just north of the town. As it will be a new table and a new day, June 7th, a row for reinforcements was made. Nothing for the rebels, but a good haul for the Union. Union 1st Division Commander, Brigadier General Barlow, had been horrified to learn that 2 of his 3 brigades had been lost and that the enemy, apparently as strong as ever, was still moving north. His remaining brigade was quartered in the large town of Newdale, guarding the northern entrance to the Crooked Valley. He had been forced to telegraph his boss with the news of the situation and requesting reinforcements from 2nd Division, which was currently located some 8 miles east of Newdale. The reply had been positive. A detachment of cavalry, a battery of artillery, and 2 regiments of infantry from 2nd Division would arrive at Newdale around nightfall. The 107th Ohio and a steady trickle of survivors from various regiments, led by Aide Ames, also arrived at Newdale just before dark. This is the map of Table 8. This is where the rebel force made camp for the night. The Confederate camp just north of town. Artillery positions at the ready and pickets posted. Dawn breaks. Today we'll see another struggle for control of the valley. When doing the research for these forces, I used the order of battle from Gettysburg. I mistakenly thought Barlow's 1st Division was made up of 3 brigades, but in fact it was only 2, that of Ames and von Gilser. As this is a sort of parallel universe, I've taken the liberty of transferring a brigade from 2nd Division to his command to give him the 3rd needed to keep this story flowing. Table 9 will probably see the final skirmish of this campaign. It's an interesting map with sweeping escarpments on both sides of the road. I intend this to be a meeting engagement with neither side pre-positioned to meet the enemy, the Union moving south from Newdale and the Confederates north from their overnight camp. The table laid out. I'm a little concerned as to the number of units that will be involved. 11 on each side. I just about got away with it with a smaller amount of units on the table in the last battle, although to my eyes it was overly congested. I also am not totally happy with how the terrain looks in the space I have. Those sweeping escarpments are difficult to reproduce with anything like the justice they deserve. I'm loath to switch to a larger table, as the whole campaign so far has been fought on this small cushion. However, I do have access to a small kitchen table measuring 43 by 29 inches, which is 110 by 74 centimetres. Map 9 laid out on the larger table, with a Union infantry regiment to show scale. More area to create the rolling terrain. The escarpment actually looks like a prominent feature of the landscape now. Plenty of room for manoeuvre too. The wide valley floor seen from the eastern escarpment. Opposing cavalry scouting ahead of the main forces come into contact on the valley road. I will not do a running commentary of what is happening. The initiative dice and the arrows should tell you all you need to know. I enjoy this part of a battle, the actual deploying, not something you see too often on the wargame table. However, I realise not everyone will appreciate it, so after about 6 turns or so, I cut to the quick and show the final positions of all the units. However, there is some atmospheric music to listen to as you watch the units deploy. Although the deployments and the actual time it takes is fascinating, well it is to me, I'll spare you the rest of the deployment moves and cut to the quick for the final pre-battle formations. Union right flank from left to right. The 1st Vermont Cavalry, J Battery, 1st Ohio, our old friends the 107th Ohio with the white disc. They were brought back to almost full strength by adding the remnants of other units who managed to flee the last battle. Next, the 33rd Massachusetts, and behind the trees, 73rd Ohio with Brigadier General Ade Ames in command. Union left flank, left to right, I Battery, 1st New York, the 154th New York, 27th Pennsylvania, 134th New York, 73rd Pennsylvania, and the 17th Connecticut Cavalry, commanded by Brigadier General Adolf von Steinwehr. Divisional commander is Brigadier General Frank Barlow. He is also with his brigade. Confederate left flank, left to right, the 2nd Virginia Cavalry, then the Louisiana Artillery, and the 5th Alabama. 13th Alabama with the white disc, and it seems facing in the wrong direction. Next to them, 1st Tennessee, under the command of Brigadier General James Archer. From left to right, Huger's Virginia Artillery, 11th Mississippi, 42nd Mississippi, 55th North Carolina, and 2nd Mississippi, under the command of Brigadier General Joe Davis. Finally, covering the flank is the 1st Maryland Cavalry. Some soldier eye views for you. Here we've got the 2nd Mississippi look toward the enemy. 1st Maryland covering the right flank. Looking down the length of the Union lines. And finally, looking from behind the rebel line of battle. A couple more as I like these. The view from Huger's Battery. And definitely the last one for now, behind Archer's brigade.